Okay, we're going to move to item 7.3, the presentation by Citrus College on its sustainability plan template. Again, we bring back Frederick E. Harris, our Assistant Vice Chancellor, and remind board members and thank Member Ramos for his consistent advocacy on this issue. I notice he has his green tie on today. Very appropriate. Very appropriate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fred.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much. A lot of great presentations, a lot that you've accomplished over the last day and a half, and I appreciate you saving the best presentation for last. That's a presentation on sustainability, and for the next 2 hours, we hope to inform you. Okay, well, we'll simmer that down for just a little bit. Over the last several Board of Governors meetings, I've been entertained several questions regarding facilities from the board and dealing with sustainability issues, and we've taken those questions and that interest to heart. Over the past several months, our partnership with the investor-owned utilities, which has been kind of a focal point for the system in dealing with sustainability issues and meets regularly, has been interacting with Board Member Ramos, and we've developed, with his help, 6 strategies for the board to consider to move forward on furthering sustainability goals and achievements that are already quite huge in our system even further. One of those particular strategies, and I believe Board Member Ramos will review those with you later after the specific presentation, but one of the specific strategies is to create energy efficiency standards and policies. The goal of this strategy is to create standards, policies, and common goals for sustainability that can be employed across the CCC system to improve resource efficiency. Bottom line, sustainability is important to us all as citizens of this planet. It's definitely important to the state of California with AB 32. It's of utmost importance to our system. But, it seemed a little bit crazy of why having, 112 different ways, if 72 different districts, 112 colleges developing an approach to achieve sustainability and their goals. We found a little bit of residual money with the Energy Commission and developed and found a willing partner in Citrus College who has done a lot of great things on their campus relative to sustainability to do a pilot program to develop a template that can be used on a shared governance basis involving the whole community in the campus and in the institution to begin sustainability and further and on a dynamic basis continue it. And our hope is after this pilot it basically comes to fruition later this spring, that we can then replicate this and share this template through the Board of Governors to the other districts and other colleges. In fact, that's begun in some of the public presentations we've done so far. So I'm going to end with that in terms of we have with us today Dr. Geraldine Perry, for the CEO from Citrus College and Citrus Community College District, and also Matt Sullivan with Newcomb Anderson McCormick, who's been staffing the partnership efforts and has been helping develop the template. The whole idea here is to talk about briefly the process through a series of slides, to talk about the benchmark that we're creating and what we want to share with the districts to further these goals. Dr. Perry?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think it's still morning, so I'll say good morning to the members of the Governing Board. Good morning to Chancellor Scott, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen who's left in the audience. I didn't quite prepare for 2 hours, so
I'll fill it.
but I think I could fill it in. I'd like to begin by letting you know it was probably about 22 years ago that I first presented to the Board of Governors, and I was an action item, and it was in City University of New York, and I was Dean of Academic Affairs. And it was an action item, and I wasn't successful. I was presenting a new type of program, a certificate program, which the university had not been doing before, and it was a certificate in gerontology. And the Board of Governors was very gracious. They thanked me, and they said there was lots of wisdom in it as they each voted it down. Today, I'm very happy that I'm not an action item, so let me begin. Well, I'm going to begin by telling you a little bit about Citrus College. Citrus College is the oldest community college in Los Angeles County. It was founded in 1950 15, and it's the 5th oldest community college in the state of California. I like to go around saying that it's the oldest community college in Los Angeles with the youngest superintendent. But lately, people have been looking at me twice on that one. We really have a wonderful record at Citrus College, and I'm really pleased and proud to be heading up the college for the last close to 4 years. Citrus College is one of the top 100 community colleges in the nation consistently on Community College Week. More recently, last couple of years, Citrus College is one of the top 50 community colleges in Hispanic Outlook for the number of degrees awarded to Hispanic students. So the college, which is a relatively moderate-sized community college serving over 11,000 students, continues to make the national radar, and I'm very pleased. It gives me something to report back to Mom in New York every week or every other week. Last year, Citrus College was featured at the Community College Initiative, the Obama Community College Initiative. Citrus College was one of the colleges presented as part of the Veterans Program. So we're really happy that we had national recognition for the Veterans Program as well. College was recently accredited. We're fully accredited, no warning, nothing like that. Fully accredited, and we just recently completed our Educational and Facilities Master Plan, recently completed a new strategic plan, and last year we were really pleased to be awarded the Green College Award. So when we had this opportunity to participate with the State Chancellor's Office on yet something new and innovative, we took it up. So I want to thank you for considering Citrus College to head up this initiative. We're really pleased to be a part of it. The initiative is a partnership, Citrus College with the State Chancellor's Office and also with the California Energy Commission, who's funding the project. We, about a little over a year ago, put out an RFP, and we were basically looking for someone to come in and facilitate the college, some experts to help us out and develop a roadmap, a toolkit in terms of sustainability. We wanted to be the leader. We were doing many things correctly, a lot of faculty interest in being green and actually putting our money where our mouth is in terms of moving from policy into practice. So we said this would be great for us. We reached out, put out the RFP, and we had 6 competitive bids, and I'm happy to report Matt Sullivan is with us because he really did a great job on that RFP. So that's the beginning of it about a year ago. We said, why plan for sustainability? And I think if you take a look at sustainability, and I like to begin things at the college at the very basic level, being an educator myself, really informing individuals on what is sustainability. And if you go back to the roots of the word, it's a Latin word, and it basically breaks down into 2 parts: tenere, to have, to hold, and sus, to have and to hold up. And while we each try to sustain every aspect of our own lives, from our physical endurance and strength to what we do as educators on a routine basis, folks really signed on for sustainability, knowing what it means. I'd like to also share with you the UN in 1987 defined sustainability, and this one is really one that I think many of us can embrace. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that really sums it up. It sums it up for us at the college, whether we're a manager, administrator, faculty, a board member, a student. What is sustainability? You know, people tend to go away from things they don't understand. But if you understand it and know the basis of it and what it can do and how we can empower ourselves in terms of tools, you're likely to sign on. Many people signed on at Citrus College to be part of the sustainability template. In fact, we actually, after a while, had to say, we have enough people for the committee. Thank you. You're part 2. The World Summit in 2005 mentioned that there are 3 critical elements to sustainability. And I think they're really critical and pivotal for what we deal with today. And they are basically a reconciliation of environmental needs, economic needs, and social equity. And I think what we face nowadays, the social equity component, is even more critical than ever. When you look at sustainability and you're focusing on resources and balance in the use of resources, and you don't take into consideration the social equity component of it, you can really disservice populations and large amounts of society, parts of society. So we really focus on that. We look at the 3 E's of it, which I just mentioned, and why else sustainability? Well, there's legislation and regulations that are driving us in that direction in terms of how our institutions operate. As well, I think that creating the sustainability template aligns very nicely with your policy and takes us as a system from policies into practices. Also, we have a responsibility as a system, a responsibility to educate individuals. So if we don't move in this direction, how will they be educated, the future students, if we don't do it in terms of be a model, practice it on the campus, but also give individuals the opportunity to be part of the model? With our system, the way that it's structured, 112 community colleges, it'd be very difficult to come up with all these sustainability templates. So it's really nice to have a cheat sheet and to put it out and say to folks, work with it, improve upon it. I've already gotten calls from colleagues. San Diego is looking at developing it and wanted to know if they can have the template. And I have to just say, just a couple more months and we should have something for you. So it's already getting some momentum out there from large community college districts. We take a look as well at the cost of doing nothing. We take a look at it. Electricity and natural gas costs have risen over time. If we do nothing in terms of sustainability, we know that we'll be putting more dollars out. Here we have the opportunity to look at consumption, how much we consume, how we consume, and really to strategize so we're not just left with the escalating bills that come from utilizing energy and resources. At Citrus, what we did is we put together a Citrus College Committee, and it has representatives from all the constituent groups. Everyone has a voice on it. There's a lot of excitement about this and what we're doing. It's kind of funny, when we first started looking at this, we actually had to do a little education of the committee because folks would say, we should do this and we should do that and we should do that. And we said, oh, we're doing that and we do that and we're part of the investor-owned utilities and we get a rebate for this and we have a central plant, but that was all part of the process. And so we have gone from a committee that just began with learning about sustainability to knowing a lot about sustainability to creating a pathway for the college and other community colleges. We also interact with an advisory council. We do need some of the experts to guide us as well, to keep us on the right track in terms of developing this template, and we have representation from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. Other community college folks are with us there. Great resources for us since they're doing community college work as well. And we have some individuals from the investor-owned utilities who are working with us to provide some insight. And I'm going to let Mr. Sullivan tell you a little bit about the project scope.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
I'm trying to sustain my energy till lunchtime, so you can press that.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Perry, and I'd also like to thank the board for having us today to talk about this very exciting project. So I want to talk a little bit about the scope, and can you hear me okay?
Yep.
This, as Dr. Perry said, this was a contract issued by Citrus College, and as a contract, it has a scope. That scope is basically to develop this sustainability template. You can hold that up, and I think you all have a copy of that. We have some additional copies here if anybody would like to take a look at it and get it approved.
You also have an electronic version, too, for sustainable purposes.
Right. Yeah, we try not to cut down too many trees for this presentation today. But our next step is, once this template is developed, is to actually test it at Citrus College, do a pilot demonstration. We've done a lot of work with the college to prepare this, to develop this, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But to really make sure it works and that it will work at a community college, we need to do this pilot demonstration. There's several conference presentations we've been involved in. We're trying to reach out to the community college system. These are all community college conferences, and help advertise this and help get the word out. Since this is Energy Commission money, there's a lot of reporting that's required. And as Dr. Perry said, this has really been a collaborative effort involving us, Newcomb Anderson McCormick. We're an energy engineering and program management firm in San Francisco, with participation of the campus committee and this advisory council. So this has been a collaborative process involving the campus primarily. The goals of this template are to be flexible enough for colleges to create their own campus-specific sustainability plans. It is comprehensive and makes recommendations where appropriate to help guide the colleges. And as I said, it supports a collaborative planning process to achieve campus-wide buy-in. This is not something that we as a consultant or even, college administration can create and say, here's your plan. This has got to be a campus-driven process. This template consists of really 3 parts. This sustainability planning guidebook, which is the thing you have in front of you. It describes the start-to-finish implementation process, includes a menu of potential sustainability projects that the campus can create, and identifies resources, both technical, programmatic, and funding to help colleges along this path. A lot of people have done this, a lot of higher education institutions and cities and many others, so there's a lot of resources out there already created. We certainly don't want to reinvent the wheel. Part of the toolkit is an implementation planning checklist, which is a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet workbook that is used to select and track sustainability projects from the guidebook. It also creates reports for monitoring progress. And again, it matches the projects described in the guidebook. The final piece is a sustainability action plan document template. So it's a Microsoft Word document file, basically in the same format as the guidebook, that colleges can use to write their own campus-specific plan. The process that we're recommending and that the template is structured under is basically this 5 or 6 step process. First step, the key one, is get commitment from campus administration at the highest levels. As you all are well aware, without that kind of a commitment at the campus, any kind of planning or activities ultimately may not succeed. We would like to see colleges establish a campus sustainability committee to do this work. That, as we've said, that's the best way to get buy-in from the entire campus and kind of bring out that creativity. The next step would be to define the goals, objectives, criteria, and timelines for the plan. Based on those goals, to select and prioritize the specific implementation projects and programs that the college will undertake. Create and execute an action plan, and then monitor and regularly report progress back to the campus community. The guidebook itself walks the college through that process that I just talked about, has a how to use this template tutorial, talks about the policy and regulatory drivers that Dr. Perry mentioned, and then basically just walks through the rest of the process steps that we've talked about in order to create this action plan. One of the elements of this is economics. Obviously, anything costs money. Any kind of planning process, any kind of implementation program costs money. So we have a lot of information here on the economics of sustainability, what the benefits are, what the costs are, what resources are out there, and how to really evaluate the cost and benefits of sustainability projects. The sustainability projects menu, as I mentioned, is fairly comprehensive and covers pretty much the entire realm of sustainability, from management and organizational structure that the college should have, energy efficiency, renewable energy, energy efficient design and operation of campus facilities, transportation and commuting alternatives. That you may be aware that by far the highest source of greenhouse gas emissions from a typical community college is from commuting, about 54% on average. So that's an important element that we cover. Water, wastewater, and sustainable landscaping, waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting, green purchasing, and going back to the social equity issue, opportunities for green curriculum development. We're primarily energy and sustainability engineers and program managers. It's been very helpful for us to have the faculty participate with us in this process because they brought that information, they brought that knowledge of green curriculum, and something that we certainly don't have. And then finally, our recommendations for a framework, tools, and approach for climate action plans if a college decides they want to do that. The guidebook also contains several best practice case studies from several other community colleges, UC and CSU system, to give colleges an idea what others have done. Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We want to use those examples from others and to provide a model and also just to generate ideas, for the campus. We have a pretty extensive list of resources, and again, those are technical and programmatic resources, funding, and this has been designed specifically for community colleges. And on the PDF version, these are all live links. They'll take you to these websites. And there's been a lot of things generated in terms of climate action planning or greenhouse gas baseline measurements and things like that. Transportation programs, waste reduction programs. There's a lot of good information out there that people have used, and we're trying to maximize the availability of that to campuses. I talked a little bit about the checklist. This is a Microsoft Excel, fairly simple for anybody to use, and it's a good tool to create, an action plan from the ideas in the guidebook, and then track those over time, assign those to individuals, set timelines, report progress. So this tool is designed for that purpose. And again, the document template is a Word document that colleges can use to create their specific written document sustainability plan based on the template with all those formatting and categories and things like that. So it will significantly cut down on the amount of time that somebody has to, spend at a keyboard writing the plan. I mentioned the pilot demonstration at Citrus College. This is, again, to test the template under actual conditions. Once we get through that process, which is probably about a 3-month process, we'll take the lessons we learned from this pilot demonstration and update the document template before we distribute it to the system at large. And again, here the goal is for the college to do most of the work on this. And we've, over the since April, we've been working with the campus. We've built up a pretty good working relationship, I think, with the staff and the committee. And I think we know how we can all work together to achieve this. And I'm really looking forward to the pilot demonstration. And this is tentatively planned for starting in February when everybody's back. And we're hoping to wrap up the pilot demonstration in April. Just quick on the schedule, we started this project again in April. We've held 4 campus committee meetings and 3 advisory council meetings to date. The draft template, which you've seen, the original draft was submitted on October 14th of last year. Final draft, which you have a copy of, was submitted on November 30th. We have a pilot demonstration rollout plan that we've prepared, and that was submitted to the college on December 15th. And we are getting ready to kick that off early or mid to late next month when everybody's back to school. And I think this is yours.
Well, here you can see our next steps. We're all looking forward to the demonstration. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also a little bit, wondering what's going to come out of it in terms of seeing what we're doing and not doing, what we're doing right and what we're not doing right, and how we can improve. It is nonetheless exciting for us. After we go through our pilot demonstration, we're going to update and finalize the template. Since we'll give it a go through, we'll know what worked and what didn't work in the template. And that will help us in terms of developing our next stage, which would be a strategy for rollout. Now that we have this, we've tried it, how do we disseminate it broadly so others can have it and begin walking the same path that we've walked in terms of planning for sustainability? Finally, the template will be available, and we're going to have it hosted on several websites from, of course, the Citrus one will have it, as well as the State Chancellor's Office, the California Energy Commission, and then with our partnerships with the investor-owned utilities, they'll also host it on their website. The template will be there along with Citrus College's plan in terms of putting the template in action so that one can see what it looks like written up from an assessment process to a planning process and stages then for implementation of it. We have contacts for more information. I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge our Vice President, Mrs. Carol Horton, who's been heading up the campus committee and who's really taken initiative in terms of sustainability. Just a couple of months ago, I was saying to her, you know, we have all the sustainability things that we're doing here, but I'm noticing that our energy, bill isn't really going down. And she said to me, oh, really? You just put online a 55,000 square foot student services building. You should be happy it didn't go up. So hats off to you, Carol. We are doing a lot of things right at Citrus College, and I want to thank her for her leadership. These are individuals you can contact, and I also want to thank Mr. Dan Estrada from the State Chancellor's Office, who's been very instrumental in working with us and given us a lot of support and incentive to take the next step and keep going. So, Matt, thank you as well.
Thank you.
And Fred, thank you for.
And thank you very much for the great presentation. We just wanted to end up in terms, I'm a firm believer that leadership is by providing value-added services and to provide the ability for districts to get the job done. And I think this is a prime example of that type of collaboration of helping districts. And there are a lot of districts here who are doing this and probably doing it well, but for us to have a system moving forward as a system on sustainability issues and the adoption of policies and procedures, I believe having this flexible tool available in our toolkit of a variety of things is going to go a long way to help that regard and hopefully meet the needs of the board and the desires of the board to further sustainability. And I thank you for your interest, especially at a lengthy day-and-a-half series of meetings.
Okay, thank you all for the presentation. We have a little bit of time for comments. Member Baca, followed by Member McDougall.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very good report. Scanning through it, and I'm looking forward to reading a little bit more detail. I just have one question, and it's a rather broad one. And you did talk about the cost involved in doing some of these things. I recognize that some of the efforts maybe have immediate payback, but there are some that maybe it's an investment that's larger than the savings, and then you get savings down the road. How much, in your view, is limiting our ability to move onto some things that have long-term benefits because there's a short-term commitment? And it's just kind of a very broad question to answer.
Well, that's a very good question, and one of the major barriers for implementing any of these kind of programs, whether it's just straight energy efficiency or larger sustainability, and that's having upfront capital to invest in a project. Most of these projects, and we talk about this a lot in the economic chapter. If you look at this, if you look at these from a life cycle investment, most of these types of projects will pay for themselves over a life cycle, so they're a good investment. The issue is having the money up front. The way a lot of colleges have funded projects, especially in the energy efficiency area or the renewable area, is with the bond program. They've had money to invest over time. So that is a major hurdle. There are a lot of resources for financing, through the utilities or through the electric and natural gas utilities, but also the water utilities, depending on what city you're in, who provides water. Even the waste management area, depending on where the college state, there's programs with funding assistance. So we try to identify as much of that as we can, and that certainly is part of the planning process is to identify where that type of funding assistance might be. But that is a challenge.
Member McDougall.
Two quick comments. One, I'd like to thank you for an excellent presentation, and President Perry for your leadership on this. It's impressive. Second, Fred, I just speaking as one board member, I would hope that our leadership from this office would be aimed toward getting 100% of our colleges involved in a program of this type. It seems to me that we should model this kind of an activity, and I know you've provided a lot of excellent leadership. I'm just not sure what our overall goal or objective might be, but I would hope it would be for 100% participation by individual colleges in such an effort.
That is definitely our goal, and it's a goal that it's not necessarily going to be force-fed. It's going to be, there's going to be probably a little bit of guilt that we'll use in terms of moving that along, but also by example of other districts, what they're doing, and the collaboration that goes on throughout the system. But again, with the goal of rolling this out for everyone to use and having it so attractive they'll want to use it.
Member Ramos, followed by Member Hawkins.
Well, I'm thrilled to have this presentation come to us, and pleased that it's coming now at the end, so we can end on a high note. I want to thank President Himmelstein for presenting me the opportunity personally to be involved in the discussions recently with Fred Harris and Matt on the investor-owned utilities front and their partnership with the Chancellor's office. We have had really productive conversations that increasingly are focusing on lifting up models just as this one from Citrus College District presents to us to learn from, to take to scale throughout the system. And I sort of want to say a couple of things that I think contextualize this and then offer up some specific examples of ways that I think that this Board of Governors, in partnership with the Investor-Owned Utilities Group, can be more supportive of these kinds of efforts. First of all, briefly, but historically, I recall as a young man hearing then very young Governor Jerry Brown back in 1974 talk about a three-part agenda that I guess helped him get the sort of nickname of Governor Moonbeam, which was serve the people, protect the planet, explore the stars. And now, nearly 40 years later, as outlandish as those touch points might have seemed, they have become the main way of thinking about our responsibility to steward environmental and social resources. And it's no longer sort of an option. It's an imperative that we all know we have to step up to, and it's an opportunity. Frankly, from the standpoint of our benefits from pursuing this work, we will significantly increase efficiencies to the extent that we have 100% system-wide participation. It will help us to lift up human capital and other allied green economy assets that are going to be the future of our social economy. It can lower the dollar costs directly and the operating costs of our campuses and districts, and it can model for other social and statewide institutions a certain sense of responsibility that we have to lead on these kinds of questions. So I applaud these efforts, and I would just say briefly for my colleagues on the Board of Governors and for the benefit of the Chancellor that this partnership between the Chancellor's office and the investor-owned utilities has resulted in 6 or 7 significant recommendations for action that I would really encourage and implore my fellow members of this board to endorse. One is the idea, as Fred started, doing some benchmarking throughout the system to figure out where we are at in terms of energy efficiency and preparedness to address these questions in a strategic way. And to benchmark not only against our own institutions within our system, but to look at the CSUs, to look at the University of California system and other higher educational institutions to see if there are models out there. Another thing that we're looking to do is to create some policies and some standards and some goals that would be, again, not enforced from a kind of an aggressive, mandate perspective, but incentivized through the kind of leadership that we're seeing at Citrus College. Another thing that we're looking for, and Paul Feist is playing an increasingly important role with his staff on this one, is increasing through communication strategy, public appreciation and visibility of these efforts across the system and in the general population. I think there's a lot more that we want to do and can do there. And then finally, in a couple of other areas, we're looking at ways we can partner with non-governmental organizations, environmentally responsible groups that might be stewards, advisors, supporters of these efforts, and also ways to integrate our support for students, both in the academic preparation realm and in terms of financial support through scholarships, so that they can have more harmonized opportunities to be supported in their pursuit of green technology jobs and participation in this kind of work on the respective campuses. So my great hope is that as we proceed, particularly over the next couple of months, we will have support from this board to do so. And the most imminent way that we hope that we can move forward is through a new awards program that we would like to bring forward for presentation in May. And perhaps at our March meeting, we will have a discussion agendized at that time to prepare for that. The notion would be to offer 3 levels of recognition through the system, one for district leadership on energy and sustainability, a second for facilities and operation stewardship, and a third for faculty and student initiatives that would create innovations in the field and ideas that would be compatible with the kinds of platforms that we've learned about today. So stay tuned, more news at 11 on this front, but I would really welcome board member attention and support for these efforts as we move them forward.
Thank you. Member Hawkins.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for the presentation. I find this very interesting. Fred and I have had many a conversation about sustainability. I was wondering, at Citrus, if you've had any identified retraining of the classified professionals that may be impacted by these new technologies coming in place or coming on board. If there's been any, I scanned the report, I didn't see any of that. I was wondering if that's been on the radar screen or if that's been taken into account.
I think that will actually come out of our next stage when we go through the actual following the template, going through it with Citrus and learning what we're doing and how we're doing it. We do things as they come up right now on a need-be basis, but it's not formalized. And I think that's one of the things with this template, that as you go through the process, you'll not only assess and look at things, you'll formalize them and put in place a timeline for implementation. This, I think, will help us also. Very often I get recommendations from different constituent groups, from the Board of Trustees, in terms of, why don't we do this or why don't we do that? Having the template and going through it, things are really now well-grounded and researched before we say, let's go ahead and change this building system, or let's go ahead and use this type of energy. So I think in the process, we'll get to that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, President Perry, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to come up here and share this with us. You've obviously got a very receptive audience here. I want to thank Member Ramos for his leadership on the board level for this. We look forward to working with you over the coming year, and thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.